My name is Lynn Allen, and I'm a licensed social worker and the Family Services Coordinator here at Hospice and Palliative Care of the Piedmont. When counseling with children, I often start out asking the question, what is grief? In my experience, most of the younger children never heard the word before, but they soon find out and realize that it's that physical and emotional pain that they are experiencing. I'm often asked, when is a child old enough to experience grief? My answer is always the same. If you're old enough to love, then you're old enough to grieve. Grief, at no matter what age, is the price that we pay for loving someone. It is important for children to do their grief work, but it's equally important to take a break from their grief as well. As adults, we have to make ourselves take breaks from our grief, but children will do this naturally. It's not unusual to see a child that is crying and is sad, and then suddenly they jump up and they run out and they start playing and laughing and having fun as if nothing is wrong. Children sense things, and if you do not have conversation with them, they may hear bits and pieces and fill in the blanks with misinformation. So be upfront and honest with them. Do not give them more information than what they are asking for. Talk to them on that child's level of maturity. Most of the time, they only want a simple explanation and nothing complex. Many people never experience the loss of a significant person until well into their adulthoods. Therefore, they find themselves trying to support children through their grief journey, and they have fear, and they're very fearful of saying or doing the wrong things. I have found that most adults are not comfortable talking with their children about death and dying. But I want to encourage you not to let this stop you. Children sense when it is awkward for you, and so I would suggest acknowledging this and saying to the child, "This is hard for me to talk about. Mommy does not have all the answers, but I am going to do the best I can to help you." Adults in the life of a child are the role models. Children look to their parents or guardians to know how to respond to grief after a loved one dies. If you have problems experiencing your grief, then chances are they will too. Oftentimes, I have found that adults find it difficult to use the words death or dying. They will make up other words to use in their place to soften this, such as sleeping, passed away, or gone. Many people are beginning to recognize that treating death as a taboo does a disservice to both the dying and the living. Efforts are underway to increase knowledge and communication about death as a means of overcoming this taboo. Grief has been coming out of the closet for quite some time now. Be prepared for tough questions about life and death and where people go after death and why people suffer and die. This varies from family to family, from one religion to the next, and even from one society to another. Believing in life after death, no matter what the religious viewpoint, the faith, or path to get there, brings comfort and hope to many children. Remember to include your religious beliefs when you discuss death with your child. However, avoid saying things like, "God took him to be with him." The child may begin to fear that God will take him too. Telling a child to be tough, to be strong, don't cry, doesn't help. Children need to talk and know that it's okay to cry. Tears are not bad, tears are healing. Explain that he or she may even see you cry, and that will be okay. It is a natural instinct to want to protect our children from the painful emotions of grief. I have found that children are protective of adults as well. For example, many times I've listened to children in our school groups and they say, "I can't talk about it at home. If I talk about it at home, my mama begins to cry." So they will avoid that because they don't want to see their mama cry. Mamas will stop and not talk about it in front of the children if they see the children cry. So it becomes a cycle. So it's important that we learn that it's okay to cry. We need to be talking about it with our children at home. Some normal behaviors that you may see is a decline in your child's grades at school, or less interest in things that he or she once enjoyed. In the classroom, teachers may see that the student engaging in the activities, but other times seems that the student is in deep thought or in a state of daydreaming. These are normal behaviors and should improve with time. Teach your child that you should not feel guilty about feeling nothing whilst everyone around you is sad and upset. Their feelings may come months afterwards, so it's important to continue to ask them how they are feeling after the funeral and the burial and months later. Children grieve differently than adults. They usually do not cry for long periods and are sad briefly, and then carry on with their normal activities. This does not mean that they fail to understand what is happening. Their grief will come and go like waves in the ocean. Studies show that children go through a series of stages in their understanding of death. Infants and toddlers, the youngest children, may perceive that adults are sad, but have no real understanding of the meaning of significance of death. Between the ages of 5 and 9, most children are beginning to realize that death is final and that all living things die. From ages 9 to 10, or through adolescence, children begin to comprehend fully that death is irreversible, that all living things die, and that they too will die someday. While it can be helpful to know that children go through a series of stages in the way they perceive death, it's important to remember that children develop at individual rates. Do not assume that all children within the same age group is grieving the same. Some common reactions to grief are anxiety, crying, denial, guilt, withdrawal, anger, drops in grades, regressing, acting younger than they did before. Some children may go back to sucking their thumb. Some problems that you may see is having trouble sleeping, nightmares, losing weight, loss of appetite, physical ailments like headaches, stomach aches, doing poorly in school, showing disruptive behavior. Oftentimes I'm asked, how long will their grief last? We cannot put a timetable on grief. Your child's grief depends on the intensity and the duration of the relationship with the person who died. Whether a child should visit the dying or attend a funeral depends on her age and ability to understand the situation. Her relationship with the dying or dead person are most important, whether she wishes to or not. The child should never be coerced or made to feel guilty if she prefers not to be involved. If she is permitted to visit a dying person or attend a funeral, she should be prepared in advance for what she will hear and see. There is no way around their grief. They cannot go over it, they can't go under it, they must go through it. If they do not deal with their grief now, it will come out eventually, one way, shape, or form. There's lots of things that you can do with your children. Some of them are express interest and encourage your child to share his or her feelings too. Reflect the feelings you hear your child say. Share your own feelings. Share your memories. Allow your child to decide if he or she wants to do a special memory of the loved one. Don't use euphemisms. Use concepts and terms the child understands. Talk on their level. Emphasize that physical death is final. Don't make light, do not dismiss or gloss over your children's questions. Take into account developmental differences. Be a good listener. Be careful. Differentiate between minor illness and fatal illness, meaning that if Grandpa died of cancer and Grandmama has a bad headache, that they understand that not everyone that's sick or feel bad will die with that illness. Be resourceful. Use books as supplements to discuss. Tell your child it is okay to feel sad, angry, and scared about death. It will help him to know that everyone has a mix of strong feelings and someone close to them has died. Allow your child to express energy through physical activities. Set limits on aggressive behavior. Parents will ask me, when is it time to worry? Some signs of your child may be having trouble include extreme behavior changes, frequent nightmares, withdrawal, depression, physical complaints. If these problems last or are severe, be sure to seek professional help.